And recognize the gentleman from Pennsylvania, Dr. Murphy, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Hathaway, in your testimony, you spoke of your many uninsured patients and the cost barrier they face to access contraceptives. Just to be clear, because this interim final rule is directed at those providing insurance, nothing in this rule would actually change your uninsured patients' ability to access contraceptives. Is that correct?
I'm not a legal scholar, and I can't truly point to that, but I do know.
They still have access to that?
Access and copays and coverage for some of the most effective methods are prohibitive for many, many, many insured and uninsured women in our country.
I'm asking, under this interim rule, would nothing that would change the uninsured patient's ability to access contraceptives in this?
No, I think it would.
Excuse me. Now, there are many business owners in my district guided by their faith who are struggling with whether or not they can continue to provide health insurance to their employees in light of this new rule. Do you honestly think the thousands of individuals and families in my district who could lose their health insurance altogether are really better off as a result of this rule?
I feel that this rule, the Institute of Medicine's evidence-based looking into this issue, is pretty clear that removing copays, removing costs, barriers will have a dramatic positive impact on reducing unintended pregnancy.
And what the issue before us here is also one of people's ability to practice their faith. That the government is not saying that people cannot access these at all, but the question really before us is whether or not government has the right to force faith-based hospitals or clinics or providers or employers certain services that violate their church teachings. And the question is whether the Secretary of HHS can act unilaterally to force employers, medical providers, hospitals, clinics, and others to act in ways that violate their faith and conscience. And to that, Mr. O'Brien, I strongly disagree with your analysis of the Catholic Church. Conscience is at the core of Catholic teaching, said, but slavery was not left to personal decisions and conscience. Thank goodness. Conscience, according to Father Anthony Fisher, tells us that it's the inner core of human beings whereby, compelled to seek the truth, they recognize there is an objective standard of moral conduct, and they make a practical judgment of what is to be done here and now in applying those standards. In Vatican II, it teaches us the moral character of actions is determined by objective criteria, not merely by the sincerity of intentions or the goodness of motives. And the church of the modern world and all people are called to form their conscience accordingly and to fit with that, as opposed to rewrite their image of the church and of the Lord's teachings. It is not, I repeat, it is not our duty as Catholics to tell God what he should do or the image that he should adhere to or what he should think, but it is up to us to shape our conscience to conform with the teachings he's given us. When Moses came down with the 10 Commandments, he didn't put it up for a vote or ask for a referendum or say to people, so what do you think, folks? Our life is spent in continuous struggle to learn that which is good, and conscience is not merely to declare it in terms of humanism and then form some image of God based upon some desires. Conscience, sir, is not convenience. Father Fisher goes on to say that deep within their conscience, human persons discover a law which they have not themselves made, but which they must obey. Conscience goes astray through ignorance. And the key here is to shape our conscience to conform to the laws of God, not to practicality or solipsism. Conscience, he goes on to say, is formed through prayer, attention to the sacred, and adhering to certain teachings of the church and the authority of Christ's teachings in the church. Conscience is not that which described by Shakespeare when he says in Hamlet, nothing is either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. So asking a group in a survey whether or not they have ever acted or thought of acting in a certain way that runs counter to the church's teachings is no more a moral code than asking people if they ever drove over the speed limit as a foundation for eliminating all traffic laws. With that, I end with a quote from John Adams, which he said in 1776 when he was writing our Declaration of Independence of the United States. He said, "It is the duty of all men in society, publicly and at stated seasons, to worship the Supreme Being, the Creator and Preserver of the universe, and no subject shall be hurt molested, or restrained in his person, liberty, or estate for worshiping God in the manner most agreeable to the dictates of his own conscience, or for religious profession or sentiments, provided he doth not disturb the public peace or obstruct others in their religious worship. The foundation of our nation is not to impose laws which restrict persons' ability to practice their faith, sir. With that, I yield back.